Hey guys, welcome to another Thursday edition of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. My name is Nick, and today I'm going to talk about something that was announced within, I guess just recently. It was back on the 12th, and that was the 2021 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you click on the link down below and go check out the Vinyl Den Facebook group. I know we say it every week, but it's just a growing community, a great place to just hang out and talk about music in general. It doesn't necessarily have to be about vinyl records, but also make sure you hit the subscribe button, give the episode a thumbs up, hit the notification bell, and also make sure you click on the link and go check out the Vinyl Den Patreon page also. So I know there's a ton of videos out there, within the last several days, last week or so, of people just really bashing on the list of inductees for this year's class. And really overall, I didn't have a huge issue with it. Obviously, there's some big names out there that aren't on that list. Ozzy Osbourne being one that I talk about pretty regularly. I know Ian and I did a whole video a while last year. I'll put a link up above where we kind of went through a lot of the bigger names that aren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think Tina Turner, which is in this year's class, I think is one of the ones we talked about. But so, like I said, I didn't have a huge issue. Obviously, there were some big names. John Coltrane is another one that really deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But I didn't want to really, kind of go down that path and really kind of harp on some of the issues that I've had with over the years or with the selection process or anything like that. So I just want to kind of take a general look at who's going to be in the class this year. So I don't know if I'd never really paid attention to the induction process or the list of the inductees other than the names that were on the list, obviously. But this year there was 4 categories for people to get in. I don't know if that's the standard thing or not, but there was a performer category, Early Influence Award, Musical Excellence Award, and then the Ahmet Ertegun Award. In the performer category, I didn't have a huge issue with a lot of the names on there. Obviously, Tina Turner is somebody that she's actually been inducted into the Hall of Fame once already back in, I believe it was 1991 that she got in with Ike. But, she, as a solo artist, she really stood on her own. I think she had a huge career and huge influence as a solo artist, and I think really deserved to be there probably before now. Another one that I think also goes down that same path is Carole King. Just an absolutely incredible singer-songwriter, huge, she recorded some incredibly huge albums. Tapestry, which I believe came out in 71, is an album that is in a lot of those top 10 lists for, greatest albums of all time. So I think both of those really deserve to be in there. The Go-Go's is another band that I believe they're one of the biggest, all-female rock bands really in the history of rock music. And, sold a ton of albums through the 80s. And, I still listen to some of their music today. Just an absolutely fantastic band that I think really deserve to be in there. Like I said, there's some other artists that I think maybe deserve to be in there also over some of those rock artists. I know that the next one I was going to talk about, which is Jay-Z, really seems to be kind of a sticking point for a lot of people this year, just because I know that a lot of people hate the fact that, rap and hip-hop artists are getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame almost yearly, it seems like now. And I think it's really kind of hard to deny some of the influence that they've had on rock music. I don't necessarily have an issue with, say Jay-Z getting in there or, Notorious B.I.G., but, because I think that's just a different style of influence. The bigger issue I have is with some of the rock bands that are getting in there. I know this year Kraftwerk got in under the Early Influence Award. Kraftwerk is a really great band, but do they deserve to be in there over some of the other rock bands? That's kind of where I kind of break it down. Like I said, I know a lot of people have an issue with rap artists getting in over, say, Ozzy Osbourne. But like I said, I kind of break them up a little differently. And I kind of think that some rock bands should get in over other rock bands. The next band on the performer list is Foo Fighters. And, I'm a big Foo Fighters fan. They are a great band. They probably do deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But this is kind of where my issue comes up. when I look at rock music, I look at, Foo Fighters, and then let's say Iron Maiden or Thin Lizzy or Motorhead. Let's look at those four bands. Three of those aren't, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but Foo Fighters is. That's kind of where I have an issue with it. Like I said, I know a lot of people kind of complained about some of the rap artists getting in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This is kind of where my issue is. Like I said, Foo Fighters is a great band. They are deserving of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But should they be in there over Iron Maiden? Now, I'm not a big Iron Maiden fan either. It just... when I look at the influence that Iron Maiden has had over the last, 40 years in rock music, and then I look at what Foo Fighters has done over the last, 25 plus years, it's hard for me to say the Foo Fighters deserve to be there over Iron Maiden, over Motorhead, those two bands in particular. But I don't know. It's just one of those things. The next one, Todd Rundgren, absolutely is a guy that has been a huge musician for a long time. I think he does deserve to be in there. But like I said, out of the performers category, Tina Turner, Carole King, the Go-Go's, Jay-Z, Foo Fighters, Todd Rundgren. I think it's really Foo Fighters is kind of that outlier. And I don't know if they just did that because it's a bigger named band now that they're able to sell tickets off of, which I'm sure this probably plays a big role in it. But I don't know. That's just my issues with that segment of that category. I do have to give the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame credit for the Early Influence Award category. I know Kraftwerk, I do have some issues with Kraftwerk being there, kind of along the same lines as Foo Fighters. Kraftwerk over, Iron Maiden, some of those other bands from the 70s and 80s who are hugely influential, which Kraftwerk is also. But I think having Charlie Patton in there, Charlie Patton is the father of Delta Blues, absolute huge influential blues musician from the early days, from the early 1900s, definitely deserves to be in there. I think they definitely righted a wrong with that one. And also Gil Scott-Heron, who, if you guys don't know who he is, he's a great jazz and soul poet from the 70s and 80s. If you're not really familiar with his work, definitely check him out. He's another person that I think definitely should have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a long time ago. And I'm sure I'll get some grief, and you go ahead and drop your comments down below and give me grief about having a jazz poet in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But I think it's somebody that has obviously influenced rock music over the last 30, 40 years. The next category, which is the Musical Excellence Award, you get LL Cool J, along the same lines as Jay-Z. Undeniable the influence he's had on music in general over the last 30 plus years. Definitely deserves to be in there. Billy Preston is another name that I think should have been in the Hall of Fame prior to 2021. Another big influential musician, and then of course Randy Rhoads. You guys all know Randy Rhoads. He's the one of the the rock heavy metal pioneers as far as like guitar work goes in the early 80s. Definitely should be in there, but like kind of once again, you got Randy Rhoads in there. Why not Ozzy Osbourne? It's kind of a strange omission there. I think two guys that I think are really linked in a lot of people's minds, especially a lot of the rock fans of the early 80s, really locked in their minds together. So I don't have an issue really, like I said, with any of those three. But the funny thing is, what exactly is the Musical Excellence Award? I haven't really found anything online. I guess if somebody knows, you can let me know in the comments. But I know it's like almost like a lesser category, obviously, than the Performer or the Early Influence Award categories. Last but not least is the Ahmet Ertegun Award, which, if you guys don't know who he is, other than maybe being the person that Frank Zappa named his son after, Ahmet Ertegun was the co-founder of Atlantic Records way back in 47, I believe it was. But this year's award went to Clarence Avant. So Clarence Avant, if you guys don't know, he was is a hugely influential person in black music. He was known as the Black Godfather. There was actually a documentary, it was on Netflix a couple of years back, called The Black Godfather. There was about that was about his life and career. It's a really great documentary if you want to check that out. But this is another instance where I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame kind of got it right. And, Clarence is somebody that should have been in a long time ago. He was hugely influential in black music, really from the early 60s all the way through the 70s. Just a lot of acts owe their career to Clarence. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. I know the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a very touchy thing with a lot of music fans. But like I said, I feel like a lot of the names on this list were names that were really deserving of being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, years before now. So maybe they're kind of catching up and kind of righting a lot of those wrongs over the years. But the 36th annual Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony is going to be in Cleveland, Ohio on October 30th, 2021. I believe it's not shown live on TV. I know it's streamed on HBO at some later date. I want to say it's normally like a month or so after the ceremony. But I don't know. I'll definitely check it out. I love the concert and stuff they do every year also, which I don't believe is part of the ceremony. I think that's also done at a later date, but whatever. It's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame does all sorts of goofy things, but I don't know. I'll definitely check it out. I enjoy watching the speeches and everything, even though that I don't always agree with the people that are in. But drop me a comment down below and let me know what you guys think of the list this year. If you believe that these guys really deserve to be in there or not. I always enjoy the conversation. Also, make sure you give me the episode a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. And that's about it. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.